Alright, this is going to be a quick tutorial on the Hardness Testing Machine. And so you can see, on our Canvas site, you should be able to see the detailed instructions for this particular model, for the Wilson Hardness. Okay. Now we're going to dive into the details of using it for the purposes of the lab. If you are interested in using it for your materials project or for other stuff that with instructor approval, okay, then you can consult this guide to make sure that you're using the correct indenter. Okay, and so the two indenters that we have in supply, we have the B and C HRB, and that's for HRB and HRC. Okay, and those are the two different indenters correspond to two different indenters, and so you can see they're in the case. For the purposes of the lab, we will use the HRB, and if you can look closely, unfortunately the camera can't quite get the zoom quite right, but essentially what it is there's a very small sphere on the tip of this indenter, okay, that we'll be using. Now, as you can see, our system is currently off. In order to turn it on, you're going to reach around to the back, and then you should be able to turn the system on. Alright, and once it is on, you'll be able to see that the light comes on, and we'll be able to see some of the old data as well. Okay, now we're ready to set up our system. Since we are going to be doing an HRB test, we want to use the B indenter. Alright, and now to put it in, we need to lower our platform. You can see that currently there's not quite enough space in order to put it in. To lower the platform, you can read the bottom. If you turn it to the left, that will load it. If you turn it to the right, that unloads it. And so by turning it to the right, you're going to lower the platform. Okay? Now that I've loaded the platform, there's enough room to put the indenter in. Should be able to, there's no tools that are required for this. You'll be able to put it in. There you go. And then you'll be able to see that it just magnetically holds the HRB indenter in by itself. Okay. Now that we have the indenter in, we need to make sure that we are using the correct settings for our test method. Currently, if we read our screen, our screen is set up for the HRC method. Now we want to change that, and so what we can do is we'll hit HR. That will give us an option of all the different types of test scales that we can use. Go ahead and change it to HRB since we want to do that, and then to change it to HRB, we'll hit OK. If you choose a different scale, all existing results will be deleted. Yep, that's okay. Make sure that whenever you're using this system to save your data offline using the USB-C. Now that we've done that, we can see that we've changed it, and if you take a look, the major load is now blinking because we are not set at the 100 kilograms for the major load. If you notice, the minor load is set at 10 kilograms. That's saying that we have the correct setting already. Okay. And then this last part, the indenter, that is going to be the 1/16 ball. That's a reminder for us to remember that, okay, hey, we had this set to make sure that you select the correct indenter. It will not check the indenter for you. You need to make sure you select the correct one. Alrighty, now in order to change the major load, we can zoom out. Up here, this setting would be for the minor load. You should not have to change this if you are trying to change this. You should not have to change this if you're just using HRB or HRC, which are the two that we'll be using with this machine, potentially. Now, over here, if you look at this knob, this is the major load selector. You can see that it's currently set at 150. If you take it, you can now rotate it, and I have changed it to 100. Now that it's at 100, we can now take a look at our screen again. And we can see that the major load is now set at the 100, and we are good to go. There's no more flashing lights at us. Now that we have all of the minor load set, we are now ready to test our specimen. In order to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to take our specimen out, and then we're going to put it onto our plate. Make sure that as you're putting your specimen on the plate, you want to line it up so that you are not testing a location that has already been tested before, as you're going to want to get many samples, and so make sure that wherever your indenter is coming down, that it is not going to be testing the exact same location as a place that has already been tested. Once you're happy with its location, you now need to actually load your sample. And so to do that, you'll turn to the left, which will load the specimen. I'll go ahead and do it a couple times. The reason that I had to do that was because our specimen was so low. However, now that we're close to it, we'll just slowly turn our load. We'll slowly turn our system. And then once you hear a click, that is the indication that you have applied the minor load. And then the system is now running. Now that it is run, you'll be able to see it will say it's running. And then at the end, when you have finished the test, you'll see that it is test complete, and you can remove the load. To remove the load, you simply unload your specimen, and then you can take it out, and then you can test a second spot. Make sure that you're providing enough space between your tests in order to get good statistics. And you're not testing a place which has already had the hardness test. If you try to do that, then your hardness measurements may be slightly off. Alrighty. With that quick tutorial, you should now be ready to hardness test. If you have additional questions, let me know. Actually, now that's been said, the last step before you do anything else, once you have finished your hardness testing, you can see up at the top here is a hole for a USB connector. Go ahead and use a USB, and then you'll be able to save your data, okay, to the USB, so that way you can keep your data. After you've saved your data, you can go ahead and delete all the test results. So that way you have freed up the memory for the next person, and then go ahead and turn off the system and unload the indenter. I'll go ahead and do that right now to show you what I mean. Alrighty. Now that you have returned the hardness tester back to its initial state, you are cleaned up and you're ready to go. You can analyze your data and you're ready for the next step. Good luck!